Hello and welcome to the Walk to End Lupus Now. Today I'll be speaking to Michele Insley. She's the Northeast Officer for the Lupus Foundation of America, and I'm also going to be speaking to Nancy Leaman. She is a Lupus Warrior, and she is also on the committee for the walk. So what exactly is this disease called lupus? 63% of the population know the word, but they do not know the disease. Many people also know that it attacks women more than it does anybody else, and it takes over 6 years to diagnose. Why so long? My name is Pat Kazakoff. Stay with me. Hello, Michele.
Hello.
And hello, Nancy.
Hello.
So I asked the question, so what exactly is this disease called lupus? What is it?
So it's an autoimmune disease that attacks your tissues and causes tissue damage and significant.
So what does that mean when you say it attacks my tissues? Like does it attack my heart? Does it attack my lungs?
Yes.
What does it do?
Yeah, it can attack everything from the skins to the organs. And so rather than your immune system attacking bad bacteria and other disease, it attacks its own tissues.
Aha. So I'm going to ask Nancy, you're called a lupus warrior.
Yes.
So tell me how that, when you talk about it attacking, give me an example.
Well, it's a disease of inflammation. So what happens is the immune system turns on itself. It sort of goes rogue. Your immune system is meant to attack invading microbes and things like bacteria.
Infection.
Right, infection. It's meant to attack the infection, but what it does is it gets confused and it turns and it starts attacking healthy tissue. So as Michele mentioned, lupus can attack anywhere in the body, and for me, it attacked my heart and lungs.
Your heart and your lungs.
Yes.
So how does that look or feel?
Well, what happened at the time was I developed something called pleural effusions.
Say it again.
Pleural effusions.
Pleural effusion.
Yes.
Okay.
It's the lining of your lungs is called the pleura, and fluid developed in mine, and it needed to be removed by needle aspiration. It's called a thoracentesis. It's a tricky little procedure that's very painful, and it caused me to have trouble breathing. It caused me, my entire body was breaking down. The inflammation was everywhere. My organs were all inflamed because at the time of diagnosis, as you mentioned, it takes very long to be diagnosed. I was very ill.
So let's talk about that. Why does it take so long to be diagnosed? I mean, why is this so complicated? You gave me a very specific example.
Yes. First of all, I had an inkling about what lupus was for a long time. I had an aunt and a mom who were tested for it, and they had. It's very complicated. I don't know how complex you want me to get with the science.
Just give me what our public wants to hear so that they know what it is.
It's, well, like I basically said, it's an autoimmune disease, so the body turns on itself and attacks healthy tissue. But the signs are kind of vague at the beginning. I had some hair falling out, a little bit of hair loss. I was finding myself very sensitive to the sun, getting burned easily, and you can notice a little bit of redness on my arms. And doctors would say to me, "What is that?" And I would say, "Well, you tell me, you're the doctor." And I was complaining of fatigue. I could sleep for 12 hours and then get up and fall asleep again on the couch. It was unbelievable.
So how old were you? How old were you in this happened?
I was in my 30s when it started to happen.
Is that late or early for the disease?
It's in the middle. We're finding, we actually have pediatric rheumatology now where they're finding in younger children. I don't know if I had it earlier in life. It's hard to know that now looking back. But I'm glad we're starting to diagnose earlier. It's very helpful. But yeah, by the time that people were discounting it, doctors were saying I was just under a lot of stress.
So do you think, of course, this shows a political leaning, of course, because we're all women here.
Right.
Do you think that the doctors were dismissing your symptoms because you were a woman, or do you think they were dismissing your symptoms because it's difficult? Like you're talking about about sensitivity on your arm. I mean, that doesn't sound like a real serious thing.
No, it doesn't. You're right.
And hair falling out. I mean, a lot of people have hair falling out. And extreme fatigue.
Well, that's actually the reason, because the symptoms are so common with all kinds of other diseases, so it could be misdiagnosed. And that's why we often say it takes 6 doctors, or 6 years and 4 doctors to pin it down.
And so you think it's a little bit because the female doctor thing, and that must be changing now because there's more women who are physicians. They're a little bit more sensitive to us, I think, maybe. What do you think? Did you find that?
I think it's possible. Once I found the right rheumatologist, I had a fantastic, time, just such a great rapport and so much sympathy and support from him. But I do believe that at the beginning it was just the idea of maybe doctors seem to not like it often when you know a lot about yourself. They don't want you to come in and say, I think X is wrong with me. I think I might have lupus.
Probably right.
And
well, they don't like, you know what they also don't like? They don't like, now you have consumer advertising to patients, and that patients come into the doctor and they say, I'd like this medication. So it's the same principle as what you're talking about. You're telling the doctor what you need or what you suspect.
Yes, and the funny thing is, I simply was asking for a certain blood test and it's called an ANA test. And it's the first kind of, first level test to see if you might have lupus. And everybody said no.
Why?
I have no idea.
Is it an uncommon test?
It's not a routine test that you would have, like a complete blood count or your cholesterol tested. But to just check off an extra box on blood work, it doesn't seem like a lot to ask for. And I had asked for years and years, and then by the time that they finally did look, I was very ill.
So what about, you're mentioning quite a few symptoms here. What is the symptom? Is there one symptom that tells everybody, yes, this person has lupus?
No.
What about the rash on the face, the butterfly rash? Would that be a good indicator, or still not enough?
It's an indicator, but it's one indicator. Somebody could have rosacea, for instance, and that could look the same.
Right. What other symptoms do people have for lupus?
You tend to have the fatigue that I mentioned, crippling fatigue. It's not just being tired, it's feeling like you could sleep and never really feel rested.
Right.
I also suffer from chronic pain. It's widespread chronic pain, joint pain, muscle pain, achiness all over. I actually use a cane sometimes to walk because it's difficult for me. And I'm trying to think what the more common things that people.
Like a brain fog.
Yes, you're right. So I'm forgetful. I'm showing it right now. They call it cognitive dysfunction, and we sort of abbreviate, use the term brain fog. You're forgetful.
So these are all pretty general, everything you're mentioning, and so I can see why it would take physicians a long time to diagnose. So is there sort of an aha moment? Like, is there something that all of a sudden someone says, yes, this is lupus? Did something happen? Did you have some sort of experience that?
I think for me it was the lab work.
The blood testing.
Yeah, it was
Just
the blood
the lab
testing.
work.
Yes, and like I mentioned that I had the procedure done on my lung, and the fluid that was removed from there tested positive for lupus antibodies also.
So it shouldn't really be complicated if you have this blood work done.
Well, I think it's more awareness. I mean, not only with the public, so that we could know to look out for it for ourselves or our loved ones, but also in the medical community. So it's becoming just more common.
Right. Well, so by coincidence, I did know someone who had lupus, and my reaction was, "Well, you look fine." That was, and I'm looking at you, and you look better than fine.
Thank you.
So, is that common too? That people with lupus look good?
It's very common. We laugh about it, and at the same time we also get a little angry about it. There's a very supportive online community for chronic illness patients and lupus warriors, as we call ourselves. And yeah, it's very common that you don't look sick. And one day I can be able to get dressed up and come out here and talk to you, and maybe tomorrow I won't be able to get out of bed. that's how quickly the symptoms will appear and change.
You talked about the online community.
Yes.
Does the Lupus Foundation of America, do they have something to do with that? Because what exactly does the Lupus Foundation of America do? Like, what is your role?
Okay. Well, the Lupus Foundation of America is the largest nonprofit that advocates for lupus patients. We do that through programs of research, education, support, and advocacy. So something that you just mentioned is like one of our programs called Lupus Connect, where we provide an online support space for people. We also have support groups where people meet in person or online, and then we have things like our programs, which we're going to talk about later, that gives an opportunity for people to come together. And then we support research, because at this point there's only 3 therapeutics for lupus, so we're always supporting
3
more.
therapeutics that are accepted by the
FDA.
By the FDA. That now, why just 3? Why not more?
Well, I guess because it's a tricky disease and the symptoms are so varied. I would think about that could be something to do with it. But I know that there's, and maybe also I might say that, and I'm not a doctor, but I think maybe it's just because it's becoming more known, so that there's more companies that are doing research into it and developing therapeutics.
So I knew somebody, I'm bringing a person, I knew someone who had lupus, and I also knew someone who had Raynaud's disease.
Yes.
Are those related?
Yeah, that can be one of the symptoms for lupus too, because that's when you lose, you're really sensitive to cold, and so your fingers could be white, and so I don't know if you've had that. But
I don't have Raynaud's, no.
That's a common, it's an associated symptom to lupus.
So Raynaud's is a symptom, or
it's an autoimmune disease in and of itself.
but you can have symptoms that mimic Raynaud's but are part of lupus.
Right, you could have Raynaud's and also have lupus.
You can have both at the same time?
Nancy, you told me this once. You said, and it always stuck with me when I'm explaining it to people, but that a lot of times when people are diagnosed with lupus, they have a few other things, and you referred to them as sister diseases. So they usually don't get just one thing. And that's, again, part of the tricky, complicated piece of diagnosing.
Right.
And
So,
even having one therapeutic that not one thing is going to work for all of your symptoms, so people could be on, kind of several
well,
drugs.
I was reading about it, and I read that some people are on like 8 medications.
Yes.
I mean, that's a lot.
It is.
Yeah, and we know that medications counteract each other, and that's not a good
Exactly.
thing. So you have to be really, really careful.
That's why they have to work with their doctors closely, and it's important to find a good doctor that you can work with.
What about, I've heard the term called orphan disease. Is lupus called an orphan disease or no? Have you heard that term?
Oh, I have heard that term, but do you know how to answer that?
I haven't heard the term, no.
Well, then if you haven't heard it and you're the Lupus Warrior, guess what? Lupus is not an orphan disease. I think that's the answer. We would know. You would know that term.
We would know that. I would have to. We're going to look into that.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about the Lupus Foundation of America. How many people do you serve? Do you serve a lot of people?
Oh gosh, yes, millions of people. And so as I said, we're the largest nonprofit in the country, and then we're comprised of
the largest nonprofit in the country
the
for
largest
lupus.
nonprofit
For
in
lupus.
the country for lupus.
Right.
Correct. That's what. Sorry. Thank you. And we are broken into regions and chapters, and we have volunteers. So we're all around the country.
And how does lupus compare as a disease as far as numbers are concerned with, let's say, diabetes or muscular dystrophy? Like, where are you on that chart?
Yeah, well, we estimate there's 1.5 million people in the U.S. that have the disease, and about 5 million people worldwide.
Is that a lot?
So,
is that a little?
I guess maybe
Like
comparatively
compared to,
it might be more rare. So could be another part of the reason that it's not as well known, not as well researched, not as well funded, not more challenging to diagnose.
So
Yes,
talk
correct.
a little bit about the fundraising event, and I know that you're on the committee, Nancy. Tell me about the walk.
The walk is a great chance for all of us Lupus Warriors to get together because it's a very isolating disease. We spend a lot of time alone because we're not feeling well enough to go out and socialize. And so meeting each other and having somebody say, "Oh I understand what you're feeling," is really validating. It's really nice to do. And Michele has been so great at getting us together and fostering a closeness among the Connecticut Warriors.
So where's this walk taking place?
It's going to take place here in West Hartford. We're going to walk around Blueback Square.
Oh, we all like Blueback Square.
Oh, it's beautiful there. We love it too. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there are two different routes that are, because a lot of us have difficulty with mobility. So there's a shorter route and then there's a longer route, and people are also welcome to just come and hang out and just be with us for the day. Just to be.
How many people show up at these walks?
Michele would have more information about this.
How many people?
Yeah, so we have about 40 walks around the country, and they all vary depending on where they are. But with our walk here, we could have 300 to 500.
Oh,
it's hard to know because it's our first time in Blueback Square in a while. So we have had an event in East Hartford, and we did that for about this will be the 5th year. But prior to this region becoming part of the national organization, it was an individual chapter, and they held the walk here in Blueback Square. So now that Connecticut chapter has become part of the national organization, we had moved it to another location, and now we're coming back to this location. So it's really going to be new for us. So we'll see how many people come, but we're hoping, is it 300 to 500? We're hoping for really great weather.
It sounds like a lot of people to me. That sounds like a huge
support. It's a really
support.
nice number, and it's an opportunity, as Nancy said, for everyone to come together because people seek support through the LFA services, but also our programs like the Walk to End Lupus Now. And they support each other. They visit our partner booths and our LFA resource booths to learn more about the disease.
You're referring to the LFA. I think you're talking about the Lupus Foundation of America, LFA.
Correct.
That makes sense to me.
Yes.
And how many miles do you walk? Like, can anybody do this, or is it short because it's all mostly lupus people,
Yes.
or is it mostly supporters? Like, who's going on this walk?
Yeah. So I like to tell people that the walk is symbolic, and they don't have to walk at all if they're not up for it, especially if they're a lupus patient and they might not have the energy that day. The event space, which I was starting to describe, is a wonderful celebratory place to be. There's music, there's fun activities, there's the educational booths, and then there's the camaraderie of being together. But then if they choose to walk, and we like people to walk because then they walk through town, like in
Right.
Blueback Square here, and create more awareness about the disease. They'll be wearing purple. They'll be wearing the walk shirts that say the Walk to End Lupus Now, and it'll get curiosity with the public. And so there's two intersecting routes. There's a half-mile route and then a route that's just about a mile.
And most of your fundraising raised through these walks, or is most of your fundraising, like, do you get federal money? Like, where does the support come from?
Yeah, it's varied. Like a lot of organizations, it's kind of tiered, and so we raise a lot of money from our walk events. Then we also have, federal and grant funding and partners.
So how much is it to join the walk?
Well, the walk is free.
The walk is free.
Right. We don't
Okay.
charge any money to register, and people don't have to really register, fundraise if they don't want to, but we encourage them to do it because the money goes toward all of the things that I talked about.
Right,
the
the
research,
services, yeah.
Yep, the education, the support services that directly affect the lupus patients, and help to produce the walks, which are a great
So
way
it's
for them
more
to be
like a
together.
festival.
It is a festival.
The Walk to End Lupus Now is really a festival to end lupus now with a walk. A walk is part of it.
And a walk is a healthy thing
Yes,
to do,
a
right? We all know that we've
yeah.
got to get our steps in, we got to keep the body moving. So it's a good thing, yeah, and it is a festival. We'll have an opening ceremony emceed by NBC Universal meteorologist Rachel J.
Oh, this is very nice.
This is great.
Yes,
We'll have a DJ, and we'll have a Zumba teacher. Her name is Kay, Catherine Van Allen, Zumba with Kay. So she'll get everybody even, warmed
Pumped up
to walk.
Right.
We'll have the mascot from the Yard Goats will be there kind of entertaining people before the walk. And then we'll also have Hartford's Proud Drill, Dance, and Drum Corps are going to be entertaining everybody.
So when is this walk exactly? Because now I'm getting very
excited.
I like the festival concept, and I like that the walk is part of a festival,
It's
and
so
that
fun.
anybody can come in, and that it's really, really egalitarian. I mean, I just like that concept. So
It is.
what's the date of the walk?
So the Hartford Walk is Saturday, September 30th. And it starts around 9:30. People come to register. The opening festivities start around 10:30, and then we walk at 11, and then come back around 12 and have more, kind of closing ceremonies with music.
Oh, wow. And is there food? Is there like also
refreshments, just little snacks and water and fruit, some
And-
sort of healthy snacks.
Is there anything else about the walk that you want to tell me about? That because I didn't realize that you had, like, you got the Zumba, you got the meteorologist, you got a lot of things going on simultaneously.
Absolutely.
To add to the festival atmosphere. Is there anything else about the walk? So the date, again, is September,
September 30th,
and starting at 9:30 a.m.
9:30 a.m.
and
Yep.
going till...
Until around noon or 1 o'clock, something like that. I mean, it's a little flexible. It's right here behind Town Hall in Blueback Square. It's free parking. People can still sign up, so they can visit lupus.org/HartfordCT. And they could also, if they want to be a part of it, they could volunteer. We always need volunteers to help us execute the event. And then if that day and location doesn't work, you can go on our website, lupus.org, and view walks around the country. We have another one in Connecticut, in Norwalk, on October 22nd. That's a Sunday.
Same
And that's
principle.
Same
The
principle.
festival concept.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
And what happens there? Is it different than the walk?
It'll be different, and I would have to ask my colleague some of the details on what she's planning for that, but I'm sure there's music, I'm sure there's, a warm-up
and a little
entertainment.
celebrity
Yes,
thing.
yes.
Well, listen, I'm wishing you all luck, and it sounds like, I hate to be general, but it sounds like a lot of fun. Just sounds like a lot of fun.
It is fun.
And you're looking great.
Thank you so much.
You look so good, and I'm sure you'll be able to walk, and you'll be there organizing. So you've heard it here. Once again, the walk in Hartford is at Blueback Square, and the date is
September 30th.
September the 30th. Starts at 9:30. All sorts of festivities around with the meteorologist and the Zumba and the walk and the
Hartford's
music
Proud, yeah.
and Hartford Proud and the Yard Goats. I mean, it's a lot of things going on. So we're going to watch for it, and I'm sure you're going to get a lot of support from the West Hartford community. Be there.